from getting an attorney. If I can't get you more, even after our fee, then you owe us nothing, not even our costs. I'm Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA 21 12670. Offices in Baton Rouge.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Hanny time. Hanny time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Hannegriff.
Max Gotro filling in for Charles Hannegriff on this Lundi Gras edition of Hanny Time, February 20th, joined in by Taylor Sharp and Mario Jerez on the ones and twos. Charles, king of sucrose over in Franklin, so he's going to take Mardi Gras off. I can't blame him there. But we had an interesting weekend in sports, so we'll get to our thoughts on that. Of course, LSU baseball underway. NFL getting phased out. You felt like, what are we going to do this weekend in the sporting world? What are we going to tune into on TV? But we got quite a bit of action, so we will get to our thoughts on the sporting weekend and, of course, LSU baseball opening weekend, their opening sweep against Western Michigan at the box. At 12:15, we'll talk to Leah Vann, LSU baseball and football beat writer for The Advocate. She was there for all three games this weekend at the box, so we'll get her thoughts on LSU baseball and their performance. And then we'll talk a little LSU basketball, some college basketball from this weekend. LSU had their chance. They were favored by 7.5 points this weekend at home against South Carolina, but unable to get the job done. And some other thoughts on this weekend. Also, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to drop them in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. We'll see if we can get to those at the end of the show. Be nice to us, okay? Internet's a rough place, so be nice to us, please. But let's start off with the weekend in sports. I mentioned earlier, the NFL getting phased out. What are we going to do? What are we going to do with our sporting weekend? With all that was going on here in South Louisiana, the parades that are out there, there's a lot to choose from, and you could have easily just turned off the TV, put away the dial, and had yourself a great weekend. Fantastic weather in the southeastern Louisiana area. But we did have a lot of action in the arenas, on the fields this weekend. LSU gymnastics, great start, posted their high score, 198.1, beating Florida, number 2 in the country. That was their first loss of the season there on the PMAC Friday night. LSU softball went 5-0 this weekend. They remain undefeated. Taylor Pleasance with a walk-off 3-run homer Friday night versus Utah. Women's basketball adds to their resume, improved to 25-1 with its 90-79 victory in Gainesville. And then, of course, you look to the pros. NBA All-Star Weekend was this weekend. I enjoyed it, actually. I didn't think I'd be tuning in a whole lot. The All-Star game is a glorified shoot-around at this point. We saw that. Jason Tatum scores 55. Anyone who wants to score 55 in that game can. There's just no defense. We all know this. It's been that way for so long. But Jose Alvarado had some fun on Friday, named the Rising Stars Game MVP. And he's really captured the national attention, it seems. We saw on Saturday he wasn't playing. He was just viewing the action in the skills challenge, the three-point contest, the dunk contest. And he got a lot of play. You saw him quite a bit, his daughter in his hands. And the TNT crew really soaking in Jose Alvarado's reactions throughout the night. Speaking of the dunk contest, we did see Trey Murphy for the Pelicans get to the finals in the dunk contest. One of the better dunk contests I can remember since going back to the Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon contest. It's been largely going downhill for a while with the stars avoiding the big games, avoiding the dunk contest, all the festivities on All-Star Weekend. But it was a lot of fun. Murphy gets all of his dunks on the first attempt. He was ultimately beaten out by Mac McClung, who was just recently promoted to the 76ers roster. He was in the G League when he was announced in the dunk contest. And Mac McClung, he put out a performance that he'll be remembered for probably for his career. I don't see him doing a whole lot in the league to trump what we will remember from that dunk contest. He had all the reactions from all the players courtside. And it was a lot of fun. You had XFL get involved. I thoroughly enjoyed some of the action that I was able to see. The new rules that they actually had in 2020, most of those stipulations. But I think it's something the NFL will have to look for because there were some successful rules differences that I saw in that opening weekend of the XFL. You had Tiger Woods back at the Genesis Open, some loaded leaderboard there, and of course college hoops. But what will captivate most of our audience here in South Louisiana was opening weekend at the Box. All the anticipation, number one team, and they're hosting Western Michigan. Now you look at the out-of-conference, the non-con, heading into SEC play, it leaves a lot to be desired. There's not a whole lot of teams that you see on that schedule that are likely to make runs to super regionals, get to Omaha. But there's a lot of excitement for preseason number one to get into action. And they would go on to sweep the series, winning 10-0 on Friday, followed up by 5-3, 9-2 victories on the weekend. Gavin Dugas, very impressive, 6 of 8, 2 home runs. You had the freshman catcher, Brady Neal, 3 of 5. He had a wind-assisted triple there on Friday. And then the freshman DH, Jared Jones, 4 of 8, 2 doubles on the weekend. You saw a cruise missile on Sunday. That was a whole lot of fun. The wind blowing in from left for much of the weekend kind of limited the big action we saw. But we did see the cruise missile 440 to center, pretty much straight center field. Very impressive stuff. There's a reason he's being looked at by MLB scouts every single game. Jordan Thompson went yard as well on Sunday. But I was really curious to see how the pitching would shake out. You've got Friday night starter Paul Skeens, 97, 99 fastball. Breaking ball was working very effectively on Friday. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 12 strikeouts. What a debut for him. On 98 pitches, the pitch count is going to get up with how much he's working the count. Not a whole lot of balls in play against Skeens. But I got to say, on Friday, watched the whole game, and I was a little bit unimpressed with the offense early on. First 5 innings, 3 runs were scored, but largely due to some help with the wind. You're going up against a Western Michigan team up in the cold in the north. Doesn't get a whole lot of opportunities to play outdoors. Not used to the cold weather, and they can't get to practice outside. They've been practicing in parking lots, indoors, and I think you saw that with some of the fly balls you saw, especially in left field. They were really struggling to track those down. You had a hit, a double, maybe a triple. Actually, it was that triple that I mentioned earlier for Brady Neal, where if there's no wind, that's probably caught. Even if there's wind for a Southern team that's had some experience this fall working with those type of fly balls, that's probably caught. So the first 3 runs, largely unimpressive. The Broncos' defensive rust, the wind, certainly helping with that. But it did get opened up a little bit after that. Now you also had the opening concern for the status of Tommy White. That was instantly a concern right away. First inning, he gets an RBI single. All right, this is what we've heard about all offseason long. Tommy Tanks getting the job done, plating runs already. And then on an attempted pickoff to first, he hurts his shoulder. Apparently there's a bit of a history there. We'll talk to Leah about that, but that was instantly a cloud over this opening game. But I did think that LSU's bats did struggle a little bit early on against the Western Michigan righty. Brady Miller, about a 90-92 fastball, nothing impressive in that they won't see much going forward. They'll see a lot of this. In fact, a whole lot better, frankly. And he was largely in control in the opening until he got 2 walks in the 6th, got pulled from that point, and the Tigers plated 5 runs in the 6th, 2 in the 8th inning. Christian Little, Micah Bucknam would get the 3 clean innings of relief for the Tigers. But once we saw it open up, that was reassuring, but I was still left with something to be desired on the weekend from LSU's offense. And remember, they're going up against 95, 98 fastballs all fall. The pitchers on this staff are going to prepare LSU's bats for SEC play. I have full confidence in that. But I was beginning to form a hypothesis after that first game. Perhaps even with these easier games in the run-up to conference play, perhaps LSU will struggle in a few of these games. They're not used to facing 87, 89 mile-an-hour fastballs, maybe even less than that in some of these games, and that could give them fits going forward. So I was interested to see how they would do on Saturday and Sunday, but we did see a lot more improvement. Frankly, even though you get 10 runs in the first game, less in the second and third games, I thought the bats were a lot better. A lot of hard hit balls, some bad luck, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen in the SEC play, and you might drop a few games where you feel like you're putting the bat on the ball very well. But the pitching over the weekend, again, very impressive. The lefty Riley Cooper on Saturday got the start, maybe a bit of a surprise to me, and he gave Bronco batters just fits. Between his fastball, right around 90, nothing all that impressive, nothing you're not used to seeing with an LSU pitcher, but his changeup was really just messing with the eyes of Bronco hitters. 5 1/3 innings of hitless ball, worked up the pitch count a little bit, 71 pitches before he was pulled. Righty Bryce Collins came in. He was the only Tiger pitcher to struggle this weekend, got roughed up, recorded only 1 out, giving up 2 earned runs. That cut the lead to 4-2. We had a little bit of an interesting game there on Saturday, but really impressed with the lefty that came in. Nate Ackenhausen granted the save in this game. 3 1/3 innings, allowed a solo shot off the scoreboard in the 9th, but that was largely just window dressing there. So, like what we saw Saturday, again, some hard hit balls, just didn't quite convert. You end up with 5 runs. Then you go Sunday, much warmer, a little bit less wind. Sunday afternoon, all the festivities still around Baton Rouge. And the 6'8 freshman righty, Chase Shores, gets the start. Mid-upper 90s fastball, but he got pulled after getting into trouble a little bit in the 4th inning. You saw Sam Dutton come in, finish the inning for him, limit the damage to 1 run. So it was tied for a little bit of ways. It was an interesting game, but the offense opened it up in the back half of that game. Ty Floyd gets credited with the win. Perfect 3 innings in relief. Very impressed with what we saw out of him. Blake Money got the last 2 innings. Allowed a solo shot to open up the 9th inning. That was also to left field. But overall, it was a very, very good performance, I thought, for LSU opening weekend. The main question I'll have going forward as we see them go up against some inferior opponents, let's be honest, can their hitting keep up? Because they're not used to facing pitchers that are throwing 85, 88 consistently. That will be something we'll have to watch in the coming weeks. They'll be back in action Tuesday against Southern at the box, 2 o'clock. So expecting a big crowd. But when we come back, we will talk to Leah Vann, LSU baseball and football beat writer for The Advocate, here on this edition of Hanny Time.
This is Hanny Time.
Mike's in Denham Springs, the local institution, keeping the party going this weekend. Starting on Thursday, get your jitterbug lessons. Swamp Pop jitterbug lessons start at 6 o'clock, and then at 7, it's DJ K-Jack is on stage. On Friday, Jared Kelly takes the stage, and then on Saturday, it's the return of the Chris LeBlanc Band to Big Mike's. Hot ball crawfish, 7 days a week at Big Mike's. Big Mike himself working the pot, starting at 11 o'clock every day. If you'd rather have ball shrimp, Monday night, it's all-you-can-eat boiled shrimp. That's every Monday night at Big Mike's. Big Mike's, the local Denham Springs institution on Aspen Boulevard, includes the Denham Springs Hall of Fame. And happy hour drink prices Monday through Friday from 3 until 7. On Sundays, it's happy hour all day starting at 11 a.m. Big Mike's on Aspen in Denham Springs. We're kind of a big deal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench. Hanny time. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I've got that blue sky. I've got that sunshine.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on select new 2022 Ford F-150 trucks. $10,000 off plus 0% financing. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Start your day with news and news.
Mario Jerez. Join us for a Tuesday edition of Off the Bench. Jake and T-Bob are still on vacation, but I'll fill in the meantime. And we talk Saints with Nick Underhill of NewOrleans.football. Join us 7 to 10 a.m. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Gotro filling in for Charles Hannegriff on this Monday afternoon. Pleasure to be joined by Leah Van, LSU baseball and football beat writer for The Advocate. She was at the box all weekend. You can follow her on Twitter at @LVan_sports. Leah, thanks for joining us. The anticipation for this season turned into a lot of excitement as the Tigers completed the sweep of Western Michigan at the box. But what were your observations on the setting this weekend, both on the field and in the bleachers?
Yeah, I mean, I think Friday, the time got moved up. I know that made people really angry, but there was still a pretty decent crowd, and there was still a decent crowd on Sunday when I went. I didn't cover the Saturday game. My colleague, Scott Rabelais, actually did. But, yeah, I thought it was still a great atmosphere for, an opening weekend.
With all the hype building to Friday, a lot will always be made about the first lineup Jay Johnson turns in and, the pitching rotation that's announced. Did anything surprise you about what we saw with the personnel this weekend?
No, actually. I had put in my projected lineup that Jared Jones would be a designated hitter, so I knew that it was going to be hard to keep him out of the lineup with just the sheer amount of power that he brings, and I would have to look up his stats in a second, but I'm going to look up his stats, and I think he had some great contributions this weekend. Paxton Kling, I also knew, like, defensively he's very strong, and offensively he's also very strong, so I wasn't surprised to see him at right field. I think, of course, with Tommy White coming out of the game and putting, like, Ben DePolt at third was smart, since that's what he played at Virginia Commonwealth when they were in the regional last year. And Gavin Dugas, of course, coming in at second and having the weekend that he had, given the adversity he has faced. I thought that was pretty good. I think I was a little surprised I didn't see Jack Merrifield after, like, how highly Jay spoke of him from this fall, but I think we'll see him soon. And I think they got a lot of guys in. So I think, yeah, okay, here we go. Jared Jones batted .500 this weekend. So not bad for a true freshman. Brady Neal starting at catcher was a little bit surprising to me, just because I think as a catcher, especially defensively, you would want a veteran back there. But not to say that Brady Neal didn't do well. He did really well. I guess I was just surprised that Alex Milazzo didn't start.
Yeah, mixed in Milazzo a little bit. He only had 2 plate appearances, but we did see some defensive contributions from him. Jones, you mentioned, 4 runs, 3 RBIs as well, so great weekend for him at the box. You mentioned Tommy White, the scare early the Tiger fans got, injuring his shoulder, sliding back into first on a pickoff attempt. It appears he avoided anything too significant. Can you update us on his injury?
Yeah, so we asked Jay after the game last night, and we won't be having a press conference today, but he doesn't anticipate that it's going to keep him out for very long. I know that last year at NC State, he actually went for a play he went to, like, make a play in the infield and fell on that same shoulder and injured it, and I think he missed 3 games. And then he spent the rest of the season as a designated hitter. And so he kind of came in with a little bit of this injury, but I don't anticipate this being a very long thing. But also I think they might just keep him out for a while, maybe until conference play, just, for safety and just to make sure he's good to go. Because I could see them taking a cautious approach, especially with the depth that they have in lineup.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting to see this weekend with the speed of play, it seemed. The first couple of games especially. The SEC is implementing some rules to speed up play this season. We saw umpires make a few calls across the league with some clock violations. Did you sense any feedback from LSU coaches or players on how that was implemented this weekend?
I know that Jay, when I initially asked him about the clock changes, he was not super thrilled about it. But I think if you saw, like, the mound visits were shorter. I mean, Wes Johnson also, like, runs up there, and the whole overall pace of play. I look back at the box scores, and the first game was 2 hours and 35 minutes. The second was 2 hours and 20 minutes, and the third game was 2 hours and 50 minutes. You also can probably say that it's not just the action clock and stuff and all the new rules, but at least on LSU's end, there were a lot fewer pitching changes compared to what we saw last year, which was more of like a bullpen style pitching. And so I think that also had a lot to do with the pace of play. But I also checked my friend Aria, who covers Vanderbilt. She tweeted out some of the times from the college baseball showdown in Arlington this weekend. And a lot of them were also under 3 hours or, like maybe 3 hours and 10 minutes. So overall, it is working across college baseball. And LSU came away from the weekend with only 1 clock violation, and that was Braden Joe Bear, in that one at bat. And I think nobody really knew about it until after the fact. But he's been called for that before, and that was last year at Arkansas.
We had Riley Cooper get the start on Saturday, and baseball fans, we like our no-hitters, our perfect games. We don't say that stuff aloud, but Riley Cooper, 5 1/3, hadn't given up a hit, only 71 pitches. Any question about why he got pulled at 71? I know he's kind of getting work back in.
I was not at that game.
Oh, true.
But I don't know why they would pull him at 71 pitches, but I know that if you're throwing a no-hitter through 5 innings, and that's pretty impressive. I don't know. I really don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Sorry, I put you in a bind there. But LSU will be back on the diamond tomorrow at 2 o'clock hosting Southern. Who can we expect to see towing the rubber? And it really seems like Jay Johnson really looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah, it's a day game, so maybe you can get your festivities in the evening or skip the baseball game. I don't know. I'm still my second year in Louisiana. Yeah, we have Thatcher Hurd starting from the mound, and I think that that might have been a strategic move to get him to pitch against Texas next week. But that's kind of what everybody anticipates at this point. So yeah, we'll see him, and I think he had a little bit when you looked at the scrimmage the Sunday before the season started. He did kind of get hit up a bit, but that was kind of everybody, since LSU has been facing its own pitchers for months now. So maybe that has something to do with it, and also there's something about Jay really wants to have at least one starting left-handed pitcher in the rotation, and so I think that putting Riley Cooper in was kind of testing that. Nate Ackenhausen, I think, will also be somebody who might make a start later this year just to experiment. So I think he's just playing around with the rotation right now and playing around with the lineup as well.
Yeah, we did see Ackenhausen 3 1/3 in relief there on Saturday. So quite a bit of action. We could see him as a starter the rest of the way. Leah Vann joining us, was at the box this weekend. Always a pleasure talking to Leah, LSU baseball, football beat writer for The Advocate. You can follow her on Twitter at @LVan_sports. Leah, thanks for your time, and happy Mardi Gras.
Thank you. You too.
All right, that's Leah Vann. Again, go check her out on Twitter at @LVan_sports on Twitter. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit of LSU basketball, some college basketball across the SEC, and some of our thoughts on the sporting weekend as well. This is Hanny Time on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Charles Hanniger for Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge. Right now, the Sell Your Car program from Infinity of Baton Rouge, they want to buy vehicles from customers right off the street. It's so easy to get an offer from Infinity of Baton Rouge, whether you're looking to sell to Infinity, trade it in for another vehicle, or even if you're just looking to find out what the value is. It takes less than 15 minutes to get a quote. There is no pressure to buy. But when you do get into the certified pre-owned program at Infinity of Baton Rouge, these vehicles have met the age and mileage requirements that are necessary to go through the 167-point inspections. Once it passes that, it qualifies for a 6-year unlimited mile warranty with 1 full year of prepaid maintenance. Couple that with the fact that you're going to get roadside assistance and a courtesy car when you bring your vehicle in for maintenance. It makes it so easy. Add in transparency in prices and family atmosphere. It's easy why to see. We'll continue to do our shopping at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls Bands and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting with a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman. With Timothy Wayne, plus two-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart Association's challenge to learn CPR. Be the beat for someone you love. You can make a difference when it matters most. Go to heart.org today to take the CPR challenge and save lives.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our
Everybody, it's Hunt. Hope your Mardi Gras weekend is a good one. Lundy Gras edition of the Hunt Palmer Show coming up on Monday. Recapping the weekend at the box and LSU, South Carolina in basketball. Lundy Gras edition 1 to 3. It's the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Cotro filling in for Charles Hannegriff on this Fat Monday. Hope you all are enjoying the great weather out there. I'm not the king of sucrose. I'm sorry. I'm not Charlie, okay? The great king of sucrose over in Franklin, Charles Hannegriff, undefeated, but he'll be back on Wednesday, so I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on LSU baseball as well. Before I get to my thoughts on LSU basketball, worth mentioning some of the SEC baseball scores across the league. People will enjoy what Tennessee was able to do this weekend. They went to the Desert Classic, a little bit different than some of the other stops that the SEC made. Went to on-site locations, and we saw Tennessee go 1-2. They lost Friday and Saturday. Friday they lost to Arizona, and then Saturday to Grand Canyon. So I think the SEC fans in general in baseball enjoy seeing Tennessee struggle a little bit. They enjoy rubbing it in your face when they win. So with that, you're going to enjoy when they lose. And we saw that with Tennessee, who was, by the way, the favorite to win, according to some odds makers, before the season began. We had 3 SEC teams as well play in the College Baseball Showdown over in Arlington, place close to my heart as a Texas Rangers fan, the brand new Globe Life Field. Arkansas, Missouri, and Vanderbilt would all go out 2-1. You have Texas, TCU, Oklahoma State in that event as well. You saw TCU absolutely destroyed Arkansas on Saturday, 18-6, but Arkansas bounced back right after. The next day, 18-1 victory over Oklahoma State. But a little bit surprised to see Missouri have the success they had. 5-3 loss on Friday to number 9 Oklahoma State, but then beating Texas and then TCU in extras on Sunday. So a pretty nice performance there in the SEC. Of course, LSU will also go off-site this weekend. They'll be going to Kansas State. It's Round Rock, Texas. They'll be playing a little round-robin event there. LSU basketball was underway this weekend as well. Saturday, if you were in the PMAC, you were one of very few because there were a lot of different options, of course, with Spanish Town kicking off early Saturday, and LSU baseball will get a lot of attention. Of course, LSU basketball now losing 14 straight, not going to garner much attention anyway. But I do have a few takeaways from that one. First of all, South Carolina got hot from deep. They shot 47% from beyond the arc, 15 of 32. That's going to give you problems against any team, including a South Carolina team that, what are they, like 220 in KenPom? 224. LSU was 146, by the way. So LSU entered this game as 7.5-point favorites. They're not going to get any opportunities as a favorite the rest of the way. The remaining schedule for them, Vanderbilt at home. That'll be on Wednesday, 87th, Ken Pom. At Ole Miss. That is the easiest opponent they have, but that'll be on the road, so the Rebels will be favored in that one. Then they host Missouri in their home finale, and then on the road at Florida in their final regular season game. But LSU now 146th in Ken Pom. When you look at their season-long statistics, it makes sense. 302nd out of 352 Division I teams in scoring offense, 66.5 points per game. 321st when you look at field goal percentage, and they're shooting 33% from beyond the arc. I think that's one of the problems that this LSU team has, and it's rather easy to do that against the South Carolina team that was hot from beyond the arc. You tend to try to go strike for strike, back and forth. Someone's shooting you out in your home gym, you're probably going to put up some threes as well. But LSU had some success in the paint. They well outscored South Carolina in the painted area. Unfortunately, LSU got to the line 26 times, but only made 14 of them. So if you're going to be a good team inside, which I think LSU, they're not really great at anything, but they are better inside. They're not a great shooting team. We know that by now. So I was a bit surprised to see them settle a little bit. Like I said, South Carolina shooting well, I think sort of pressured LSU to take some shots. And they were behind as well, so that also put some pressure on you. But Cam Hayes had 25 points. He was the one successful player from beyond the arc. He was 4 of 8. But I was curious to kind of look into some statistics here. I was doing this last night because it seems like LSU's biggest problem is their starts. It's one thing to get down a little bit, but they're getting down out of the gates in almost every game, and it's not particularly close. So you have 4 timeouts during each half, official timeouts, TV timeouts, whatever you want to call them. Under 16 timeout, that'll happen, between 16 and 15-minute mark in the first half, and then the under 12 timeout. So I'm looking specifically at the under 12 timeout this year. And you can kind of exclude the first 4 SEC games for LSU. They came into conference play. We didn't really know who they were. Their only loss was to Kansas State in a controversial manner. So I was curious to see how LSU would open up play, and they got their top 10 win at home against Arkansas. Granted, we know Arkansas now, not quite the same. They are getting some pieces back, but that win doesn't look quite the same as you perhaps thought it might be at the time. They opened up with a 13-12 lead at the under 12 timeout there. At Kentucky, another good performance. Granted, Kentucky, not who we thought they were, but Rupp Arena, always a tough place to play, even if it's a bubble team there in Lexington. Then you went on the road to Texas A&M. I thought you showed some fight. A&M's a very good team. We know that now. And then you hosted Florida, and you were in that game for much of it. So the first 4 games I thought were a little bit different in terms of the performances we saw from LSU basketball. But since then, LSU has not led in an under 12 timeout situation all but 1 game. So that's 10 of 11 games they've trailed. Now, all right, what if they're down 1? That's not a really big deal, right? So they started on the road at Alabama. We know that was a blowout from the get-go, 21-9 with just under 12 minutes to go. Then you host Auburn. You're down 14-6. You're down 6 at the under 12 against Tennessee, down 7 at Arkansas, down 10 in the Big 12 Challenge against Texas Tech. You go on the road to Como, take on Missouri. You're down 11, 22-11. Well, that's great. You host Alabama. You're down 3. Mississippi State, you're down 1. Texas A&M, 17-2. In the first 8 minutes of play, you've scored 2 points. That's not ideal. And we know now that the closest game LSU's played, the most competitive game they've played, was on the road in Athens. Had a chance there late against Georgia. And they were up 12-8 at the under 12 timeout. And then, of course, Saturday, hosting South Carolina. Bad team, really bad team. You gave them their 3rd SEC win because you were down 20-11 at the under 12 timeout. So in the last 11 games, beginning at Alabama, they have trailed in the under 12 timeout by an average of 7 points, 16-9. That's not ideal. And when you're a team that's struggling with momentum, struggling with confidence, they're not quitting. I'll give this team that. And you might say, well, that's not much to ask, right? These are college Division I athletes. Like, let's show some effort throughout the game. But we've seen a lot of teams in this situation sort of give up, let off the gas, knowing their fate pretty early. And at least LSU is battling. But even in the under 16 timeout, they've trailed in 13 of 15 games since SEC began. If you want to exclude the Texas Tech game, that's 12 of 14. So you got to get off to a better start if you want a chance to win one of these remaining 4 games, because you're just not quite talented enough to fight from behind. We've seen that time and time again. And so we'll see if Matt McMahon can get something dialed up for this team earlier on. Outside of LSU, there was some college basketball across the landscape. Tennessee went to Kentucky. I mentioned them earlier, right on the bubble. That's going to be a team fighting for their postseason berth the rest of the way. But a good performance from them, 66-54 win against number 10 Tennessee, coming off that win against Alabama. Tennessee's a weird team right now. I mean, they're not healthy. Josiah Jordan-James, to me, one of their best players, he was missing in this game. It seems like he's going to return at some point soon. So that would be a big boost for Tennessee, but a very important win for Kentucky at home. Baylor at Kansas, when you look outside the SEC, was probably the best game, the one you were looking forward to the most. Kansas wins 87-71. And once again, I think we've talked about it at length on Jimmy Ott's Game Time, but this season in college basketball is wide open. March Madness is going to live up to that name this year because Alabama is probably a deserving number 1 team. They blew out Georgia over the weekend. But how great is Alabama? How great is Purdue? How great is Kansas? The gap between the top echelon of teams and the rest is just a lot closer than we're used to seeing. And so I think that's why we're going to see a whole lot of entertainment, excitement, and upsets this March. Remember, we'll get to any of your questions in the next segment, so bring that to us. But I want to bring in Mario and Taylor on this one. Any other thoughts from this weekend? I spent a lot of time watching golf. I'm a bit of a golf enthusiast, so Tiger Woods being back in action, enjoyed that. Great finish, John Rahm outlasting Max Homa, but also got to check in a little bit on the XFL. Mario, I listened to your thoughts on this morning. I know you didn't necessarily watch it a whole lot, but you seem to be a little bit anti some of the rules that exist. Maybe not so much the NFL shouldn't be implementing them, let's say.
That's a good way to put it, man. I mean, I saw the 4th and 15 and the rule that they implemented that you can do that instead of going for the onside kick, and it makes for good entertainment. That's part of the reason why all the XFL talk was making the rounds on social media. But yeah, I would not implement any of that stuff to the NFL. I would maybe watch this, maybe put down a couple of bets with some buddies here and there, but yeah, that was interesting. And then the fans throwing lemons at the Defenders game was also, it looked a lot of fun.
Yeah, Sea Dragons, Defenders. The Defenders were probably the best home field advantage a couple years ago outside of St. Louis. They really showed up since they lost their NFL team. But 2020 was the last rendition. They didn't complete the season due to COVID. But Defenders, once again, nice comeback. We saw some comebacks in this opening week. Taylor, I think you watched a little bit of it. What was your impressions? A lot of pick sixes, some sloppy quarterback play, but I thought it was an entertaining product.
Yeah, I mean, look, you said sloppy QB play, but overall the games were really competitive. I enjoyed them. I mean, a lot of 4-point wins. Look, I'm not a baseball guy at all. I will fully admit I watched like 3 XFL games this weekend, so I caught almost all of them. But, kind of jumping off of Mario's point, I don't want the NFL to implement these rules. However, I really enjoyed it. It gives you a different product. I personally love the 4th and 15. I think that's a great little wrinkle. I don't want the NFL to do it, but I mean, how many people actually enjoy watching an onside kick? I mean, I know I don't. I think this is it gives the team an option to try to come back, and that's what made some of these games so close. You got the 3-point conversion from 10 yards out. It's a nice little wrinkle, man.
I really like some of these rules. I think the NFL gets a little lazy with its product sometimes. We'll always talk about officiating with them. I mean, they don't seem to fix that each and every year. Roger Goodell says they're the best they've ever been. So I'm not not very confident that they're going to fix that issue. And we saw Dean Blandino is being videoed, being filmed live on TV as he's making the decision. The one problem they have, I think they got a couple calls wrong just because they didn't have the right camera angles to overturn the calls. I mean, they're just not going to have the video footage that you have in the NFL. But the 4th and 15 onside kick, it certainly makes for more comebacks. And at the end of the day, I know the NFL had great ratings this year, but it is an entertainment product. So I think we could see something like that in the future. But what I'm really curious by, and I don't think we'll see the 1, 2, 3-point extra point attempt anytime soon in the NFL either. I think it's also entertaining because it makes a 9-point game a 1-possession game. So we saw more fluctuation. But I do think we could see the NFL implement the kickoff rule. They have a kicker all by himself back there, and you can't move until the returner kicks it. And all of the kickoff specialists, the blockers, they're at the 35 and 30-yard line. And they're also implementing where you can't just boot it out of the end zone because then the opponent gets it in great territory, great field position, and you can't just fair catch it and not return it or let it go in the end zone because then you're going to get terrible field possession. So they're suggesting that you should definitely return it, which I think the kickoff has been phased out of the NFL for a long time. It hardly exists anymore. But also, player safety is an issue, and that's why we're seeing less kickoffs in the NFL. And in this situation where no one's running at each other 20 miles an hour, I think it's something the NFL could definitely implement at some point. I don't know about y'all, but to me, it's going to create more excitement. We didn't see a kickoff return, but it seems like it would be more likely in this situation.
Yeah, that's something I could see him maybe flirt with. Like, it would get as far as maybe, like, trying it out in a preseason setting. But to be honest with you, I think the NFL might do away with the kickoff altogether before they do something like that. If anything, just to not look unoriginal. Like, I don't think they're going to want to do something that the XFL started. But I do agree with the rest of your points. And I do think sometime soon we could be living in a world where they get rid of kickoffs altogether.
Speaking of bringing old rules back, I found this out the other day. The original XFL, like back when McMahon did it and stuff, instead of a coin toss, they would throw a fumble at midfield and two guys had to run and dive for the fumble. That needs to be brought back.
Rugby-esque.
I think that's excellent.
Yeah, a lot of injuries from that, but it was very entertaining.
But it is entertaining.
Yes.
For sure. And that's what this is. If you're going to make football happen in the spring, you have to make it entertaining. The USFL tried this. You might pick a team, but it's just kind of the same old, same old. The XFL's trying new things, and I appreciate that. They did implement, I think, the Sky Judge, which is something the NFL is able to kind of fill in. And I think competition is a good thing. And look, none of these leagues are going to compete with the NFL, but seeing other ideas, maybe that'll push the NFL forward because I think their product gets a little lazy in terms of the way they promote it, other things like that. Taylor, you mentioned as well, the XFL logo. What are they doing? I mean, it was perfect as is.
Yeah, I don't know, because when you're watching it on TV, it's maybe 10 yards long, and it's just XFL in white letters. I mean, no color outline, no nothing. I'll try to pull it up here in just a second, but yeah, it's just kind of basic. We were talking about the old one, the blue and the red X. It was a lot better. That was one thing I didn't like. I think they should bring back the old one.
So Renegades, Defenders, Battlehawks, Roughnecks, the winners in week 1. We'll see how it shakes out next weekend. Really enjoyed a little bit of football, even though the NFL season was over. And by the way, some LSU connections with especially the Roughnecks team. John Trey Kirkland had a very nice game for the Roughnecks. 5 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown grab. So great stuff there from John Trey Kirkland. We'll see if that can translate to something maybe down the road in the NFL. But we'll wrap up the show next. Max Gotro, Taylor Sharp, Mario Jerez in here for this edition of Hanny Time. We come back, we'll wrap up the show. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart Association's challenge to learn CPR. Be the beat for someone you love. You can make a difference when it matters most. Go to heart.org today to take the CPR challenge and save lives.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls, Bands, and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting. With a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman. With Timothy Wayne, plus 2-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers, and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm out. Musso hosts all week, recapping opening weekend at the Box. Join us for Monday's AFR, 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Gotro filling in for Charles Hannegriff on this Monday afternoon. Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp here with me. We had some questions come in on the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. What do the people want to know?
Okay, so the first question came in a little bit ago, and they wanted to ask you about okay, I lost the first question, but the next question is, will Jimmy be on tonight?
Yes.
Will be on the show tonight?
Yes, Jimmy will be on tonight. He'll be at Sammy's Grill on Highland, recapping all of the bets and action from this weekend.
All right, sounds good. Do you have a favorite cyclist is the next one I'm seeing in the chat here.
Cyclist. I can't say I know many, so I'm going to go with Armstrong.
Okay.
I think if there's a good skit Bill Burr does, I think on Conan O'Brien. I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's just like, at the end of the day, he did a lot for cycling and for other things. So yes, he cheated, but don't just look at him like he's the only one.
Exactly. One mistake, man. Don't let it define everything else. And for what it's worth, I was reading up on Lance Armstrong the other day, and apparently he invested in Uber like right before all the PED stuff went out, and that basically saved him financially. Like without that, he'd be ruined.
So he's a smart guy.
Yes, yes. Besides the PED thing, yes, he has been. Next question. Do you have a favorite English Premier League team?
I watch a lot of Premier League. I'm a big Liverpool fan. Nice win over the weekend at Newcastle. So hopefully we're going to make the top 4, be back in the Champions League next year. We're actually in Champions League this week against Real Madrid. So looking forward to it.
All right. That should be a good matchup. I was telling y'all I'm a little bit of a Real Madrid fan. I guess I'll root for Man City in the Premier League just because I'm pretty good with them in FIFA. Only less than a minute left here in the show, but I do have to ask the most recent question. Has anybody ever told you look like Justin Timberlake? And would that make you happy?
I'll take it. I'll take it. No one has ever told me that. Don't
Really?
normally have the beard going, so that might be part of it. But yeah, I'll take that. Thanks, Shane. Really appreciate it.
All right, I can see it a little bit for what it's worth.
When we come back tomorrow, I will be in for Charles Handegriff. He'll be back on Wednesday. But Dwayne Colucci from the Rampart in Las Vegas will join us to talk all things hockey. Of course, he'll talk some betting over the weekend, so really looking forward to it. That'll be Dwayne Colucci on tomorrow's edition of Hanny Time. Until then, happy Lundy Gras, everyone. We'll see you then. Hunt Palmer is up next on 104.5.